from pre-modernization to post-modernization. In this book from the 70s, a British book, there's a lot listed. And now we have said first and foremost what is modernization. And that is the industrialization of a country, and that there is a proper administration, and also that there is training in technology. And intellectual abilities are there a lot, and also that there is a working system of medical and social welfare things. And most people striving to get that. In some countries who have reached it already, the expansion of industrialization of other things is oftentimes not so much liked, because the negative consequences are seen that we're overweighing the positive ones. For example, is the seeing of smoke associated in these countries when with destroying of the environment. Other countries, if they see smoke, they just see the modernization, positive things. Some countries are diminished in their growth of modernization because they're having a big increase in population. For example, India risen the population from the 1950s to the 1980s in a double. Now, there are not also something else. The technology has made progress, and it is possible with atomic weapons to basically kill everyone on the planet, but also has the medicine made progress, and it is also possible now to prevent infant mortality almost completely. Now, there are different political ideas. For example, Marxism arisen, and that gives an explanation for the misery that some people have, and also how it gets better. Nationalism also, that gives the people cultural identity, and also solidarity against foreign exploiters as idea. The whole industrialization and modernization is fueled on fossil fuels, a lot of it. And there's a big shift of wealth from these modernization countries to some other countries, to the people who have their control over the oil, for example. For example, in Kuwait or in Abu Dhabi in Libya, Saudi Arabia. And also another thing is, for example, the company General Motors has made in the year 1970 so many cars in the amount of which the cars which were sold in the year 1970 by General Motors was more money than the whole country of Yugoslavia, Greek or Egypt is doing with altogether. Now, some people have already released post-modernization or post-industrialization. And pre-industrialization was mainly working on extracting raw materials from the ground, so coal or whatever. And industrialization was a lot about manufacturing of goods, and now it goes more to intellectual abilities, to universities, to theoretical knowledge. And theoretical knowledge is an asset which can be used technically by everyone, and it cannot be used up. That is why many countries putting a lot of money in education and also. Another thing he argued in this book is when said that humans no longer fight against nature, but against other humans. And there's also a lot of things necessary to keep societies now working. There's a lot of health necessary, welfare, and so on. And there are also firms now necessary to work on the system, basically. There are trade associations representing the consumers and the producers of things. Now, there are many different jobs listed. The United States lists over 20,000 occupations types. And some of them need years to study for, others just a few months. And in these occupations, there are the more foreign workers working, where it's easier to go from job to job. And that happens, for example, in Germany and the United States of America. The next thing is, if the people have grown apart, is argued in this book, that the people, they are making holiday in other countries. They are no longer bound to the rhythms of the season, to agriculture when they have to sow the seeds, or to the manufacture of the machines or whatever. They are bound to other things. And they're making the holidays in other countries. And if they have in another town a better occupation which gives more money, they are changing the town. And if now a family moves from town to town, they are losing their contact to their relatives. And that way the distinctive flavor, dialect, attitudes and so on of the region gets lost. But the people all over share a common body of knowledge about mass media. They watch the same movies, the same books and so on. They have a shared knowledge of mass media. And through that they are able to communicate with each other over their other social backgrounds. And the next thing in this book is that also the clothes have changed. People are no longer identifiable by their clothes, what class they have, and the fashion is changing rapidly. And the old becomes the new. So basically the people were what they want. And many people decide to try, if they have the money and the means to acquire it, and also know what clothes they were. They have been trying to become part of through the t-shirts, what they were, to become part of a jazz group, so to become part of it, or of movies or something. But here's an argument in this book that does not give a central link of community actually, as once the churches or other things did. Now another thing here is said that the most post-modernization countries or modernization countries have reached literacy. Basically everyone can read and write. Other countries are still struggling with it. And also basically all around the world with the mass media aspect, getting these mass media, and they can see what can be achieved and they want to achieve it. And now people, they have all something pervading in all their life, and that is bureaucracy and organization listed in this book, is said in this book here. And that means that all the people are basically organized, all live by the same rules and so on, and all people are organized, but they don't get a feeling of togetherness. They're just organized. Another thing that's said is that of children, of students, of pupils, it is expected to find a form of free expression and of identity. They are offered choice and also the ability to express themselves, but they don't really have the structures and the loyalty necessary to form an identity in the first place. They are organized in two big scales in schools. They are moving from classroom to classroom with different pupils and so on, as he argued. The next thing is that also authorities figures have declined. People no longer have so much policeman, person, parent, political father figure or God listed in this book here as an authority figure. Also it's been said that also the elites are calling for equality. And people no longer work so much in their own business, in their own bookshop or whatever, in their own corner shop. They work for large corporations. And they are in these corporations not interested in the profit which they make or the whole economy, but just in their own employment, because they don't take part in the profit. The next thing is when many people don't blame themselves or another individual person for a problem if it occurs, but the whole system. Many people want to say the system, how the society works, but they don't want to take the risks to adapt a new one. Then the rise of sociology has happened, and there was also said that many people who were oppressed in wood forms, whatever, were also in by the whole group and by the whole system. And that had brought progress in discrimination against women, where women get the same rights as men, and also that people who don't have a white skin color also get the same rights. This idea of sociology, that every form of discipline is a problem, also went on into achievements, was been said in this book here. So that also schools are affected by it. And there's no said that in the schools the free expression is more important than the skill or literacy to get. And that there are people from other countries who are going on to these countries, want to get these modernizations, literacy, skills and so on, but in the schools, in these schools are oftentimes offered expression of these other things. Also another thing is when said that the people have grown more homogeneous, that the people have an opinion about many different things, basically about all things, and that it is possible for a small group of activists to make, at that point, something and then change the whole direction of the whole country. A small group of activists at one point is able to change the whole direction over the democratic majority of it. But that it is not so big in countries of pluralism, many countries who are post-modernization in Western countries, because there's a great form of pluralism with different religions, different political parties, different institutions. That doesn't happen so much there, that some group of activists can have an influence on the whole political region. And another thing then said is that in some countries there are other secondary things growing, and they are basically striving for having just one identity, one religion, one ethnic and one country. But it's also not so strong in Western countries. In Western countries, post-modernization, there's the idea of liberty and people of different ethnic groups with different ideologies and different ideas are there, so that these countries are giving the people the option to have their own individualism. That all is according to that book here, Reader's Digest, Library of Modern Knowledge, Book 2, Part 8, Man and Society, written by C. L. Beddock, Hugh Jocelyn, Emily Court, Peter Loyce, Lucy Mayer, David Martin, Jacqueline Sarsby, Ruth D. Whitehouse, J.C. Woodburn, on the page 444 and 445. If you turn this video at one point off, then please tell me what the reason for it was, so that I can improve. Otherwise, hi and welcome. I'm trying to learn political science today, the dilemma of modern man, and after we've done it, we're gonna do leg injury prevention training. And if you participate in the leg injury prevention training, then it's at your own risk. And the book is from the 70s, and it is a British book, and we're having a big double page, and let's go over what arguments we had so far listed which we want to memorize, so that we can save them from memory. So it was that modernity means industrialization, training in science and technology, proper administration in the full range of social and medical service. If some people in some other countries which have not reached modernity see smoke or dust, they see it as something great, as progress, that we want to have it. Some people in the countries post-industrialization see smoke or dust rather as something which has more negative consequences than a positive one. They don't want a further expansion of industrialization. They see that it destroys the nature and the environment. Some countries are not having that much of growth because it is limited through the population growth, which has, for example, in India, doubled in 30 years. The technology is able to make atomic weapons to kill everyone on the planet, but also medicine has made progress, and infant mortality and diseases are almost eradicated, on many places at least. Their political ideas also, there's for example Marxism, which gives the hope and also an explanation for the misery, and nationalism, which gives the people a feeling, a cultural identity, and also solidarity against foreign exploiters. All societies are built on, this is the argument, are built on working now for a better later outcome, on making no sacrifices. Then that the industrialization is fueled by fossil fuels, so that there is a shift of wealth or a paying of wealth to some people who are controlling this oil in some other countries. For example, Saudi Arabia, Iran, Kuwait, Abu Dhabi, and Libya. Some firms are producing as much as a whole other country in a whole year in money. So, for example, General Motors. In the post-industrialization countries, intellectual ability, so intellect and other things, are now becoming more important. Knowledge which can never be used up. People go to university, a new class has arisen, the people who go to universities. Also, the people are no longer fighting against nature, but against another person. There have to be a lot of people working on the health, education, welfare agency, research, computer and systems. Somewhere was it written, I think. But we're having people to work basically on keeping the other one able to live basically. So some people have to work on it. Post-industrial society requires more and more services in the form of health, education, welfare agencies, research, computers and system analyzers. In the West, new professions and skill proliferate with the growth in size and complexity of modern industry. The corporate guilds and family concerns of the past have been supplanted by private and state firms, business and trade associations and bodies representing producers and consumers. So there are new systems arising to regulate the whole complexity of the system. I think that is what we're saying. And there are many different jobs. For example, 20,000 listed in the USA. Some need year to work to study for, others are don't need so much to study for. And these are the jobs where people basically more hopping or foreign workers are working in Germany and the United States of America. The people are not so much in the community anymore. They are making holiday outside of their country. They are moving to town if they have a better occupation which pays more money. They also, if a family moves, they are no longer living with their relatives together. The people don't have their dialect or a distinctive flair or of a region anymore so much, but they have a shared mass media, share a body of knowledge. So they're consuming the same mass media. So they're having our religious, racial or social backgrounds the way they have a shared mass media, shared body of knowledge about which we can communicate. Most people in these countries have literacy, are literate, whatever it means. They can read and write. The modernization is also spread by, for example, Christian missions in Africa. The fashion is changing so fast that the old becomes the new. People basically will what we want. They try. People are no longer identifiable by what their clothes they were, but they try still to seek to be part of a group with their clothes they were, like students, pop fans, devotees, progressive jazz, and so on. But these groups which try to be part of their clothing are not giving a real link in community as the churches or other voluntary organizations once did. The next thing is that the people are ruled. They all having bureaucracy, and in all their lives basically they're having the same rules and bureaucracy. People are organized, but they don't get a feeling of togetherness or community. They are just organized through bureaucracy. Also, students are not really able to find an identity or express themselves. They are just moving from class to class, and so basically, but it's not so directly said, so I can't really say what to say. I'm just listing what is here general. When people don't have so strong authority through example, parents, schoolmaster, parson, policeman, political father figure, or God so much anymore. Also, the elites are calling for equality and free choice. People blaming the whole society and the system for mistakes and don't take personal responsibility. And the people don't work so much anymore in corner shops or self-made businesses. They're working for large companies. They are not interested in the profits of the company so much, just in their employment. They don't profit from the profits. Dependent on employment, not on profit, he has little interest in economic freedom or the taking of risks. It's not completely said like that. But I think that is meant, or at least it would be something which would be written in the next sentence. Social systems under fire. Affluence has also created a new grouping opposed both to the, so that is what we had so far, settled prospects of the functionary and to the risky pursuit of profit. Affluence has also created a new grouping opposed both to the settled prospects of the functionary and to the risky pursuit of profit. I don't know what affluence means. This grouping basic thinking is in terms of good or bad social systems rather than an individual behavior. So the first thing was people don't have so much prospect of functionary and the risky pursuit of profit. Affluence has also created a new grouping opposed both to the settled prospects of the functionary and to the risky pursuit of profit. They don't want to have They don't like the system keeping running, which is right now running in whatever system they are living, but they also don't want to take the risks for a new one, is here argued. I'm not completely sure if I understand it correctly, but I think that is said here. The next thing is, the people don't think so much in individual, their or other individuals' mistakes, but in whether a whole system is good or bad. It switches moral anger from personal deeds to social arrangements. So they're having their own anger or moral deeds, moral anger, and the personal problems, and they're blaming the whole society for that. It switches moral anger from personal deeds to social arrangements. So when they have a moral anger or anger, they don't think it is part of their or someone else's personal deeds, but it is a mistake of a whole social arrangement. I think that is argued here. The growth of sociology was part of this switch because it purported, whatever it means, to show how the individual and certain deprived groups were oppressed by social arrangements. So, okay, we're talking about some people don't blame them. If something is wrong, blame themselves or another individual person, but they're blaming the whole system and the whole social arrangements. That was also why that thinking is through the growth of sociology. People who are trying to understand and explain, basically, how the individual and certain deprived groups were oppressed by social arrangements. Every form of discipline, whether intellectual, personal, family, or military, was seen as social oppression. Okay, and that thinking sees any form of involvement in other people's life, or the possibility of ordering discipline, or we rather stay with what they say. I don't think I can find better, but they're saying every form of discipline, intellectual, personal, family, military, was seen as oppression. The influence of this thinking has led to a campaign to wipe out the old map of rigid social demarcations based on distinctions not only of color and sex preference, but also of achievement. So we're saying there's not only abolished the discrimination based on color or sex, but also of achievement. I don't really understand it. But I understand the whole context. Sociology argues that any form of discipline, or without discipline, that people are oppressed, and that is happening then oftentimes as seen as, or is, through the whole society and the whole social arrangements. Women have received more rights, and colored people have made limited advances. In education, however, many fear that a slackening of discipline has led to a loss of essential skills in the use of numbers and reading. I don't really understand if they're explaining what I understand. I don't really believe they are explaining what I understand here. Such a loss is damaging in a competitive world that requires abilities based on theoretical knowledge. The emerging nations and immigrants from the third world seek skills and literacy, but the affluent sectors are downgrading these in favor of self-expression. Okay, and I understand what you're saying. They're saying, so the first thing which was abolished and put away was that people were discriminated or differently treated based on their skin color or their biological sex. But then they arguing that also was put away, that they were treated differently or having other whatever things based on their achievements which were gotten in education. And that some people argue that that is not good, because people lose the ability to read and write, or to work with numbers and reading. And that some emerging nations which have not reached the industrialization of a modernization, of a post-modernization, are even coming to these countries and searching their skills and literacy. But in these schools and these countries, these skills and literacy were downgraded in favor of giving the people self-expression. Let's go one little bit back here. It was written, the same effects can be seen in schools, which are often organized on such a large scale that a supreme loyalty is not easily achieved. The buildings themselves may not allow the whole school to come together as a body. Complex timetables require pupils to move about, first with this group and then with that, but pupils are expected to find their identity and express themselves. They are offered choice and free expression without the stable structures and loyalties which make the identity possible in the first place. The result may be the disconnection and rootlessness that some sociologists call anomie. Theoretical knowledge is an asset which can never be used up. It can belong to the whole community, and the search for it cannot benefit one person exclusively. This new class rises through the educational system and through the merit acquired by means of certificates and expertise. It's a little hard right now to understand, I think, to explain it with my own words, but I think I understand what we're meaning, what I said a minute ago. Apathy and urban terror. Let's read. We don't have time yet. We're going to come back in the next part. Then we're going to read that last part, apathy and urban terror, and we try to keep in mind all what we had listed here. And then in the part after it, or the part after it, we're going to list all the arguments listed here, whether true or not, whatever. We're just going to try to list all of them argued here in this book. If you were here for political science, you can go directly to the next part of political science. Then we're going to talk about apathy and urban terror. If you stay here and participate in whatever we're doing, leg injury prevention training is really on this. Good and stable standing leg and swing your foot in front and to the side. Other front and to the side. And foot in front and back. Other foot in front and back. And one leg up, out to the side, breathe again in, into the middle and down. Other leg up, breathe in, to the side, breathe again in, middle and down. One leg up, knee up, leg over to one side, hands over to one side. Change. Other one up, over. And we don't probably warm up. One leg up and press the knee up and to the side. Other knee. Leg to the side and leg up. Other one. Stand good on one leg, turn over. This can go onto the knee. Down, turn slowly from shoulder over, and come up again. Stand good, turn over, down, turn over, and up. Legs wide apart, push finger down. And now turn in and up. And out. Breathe in across the legs. And breathe again out. That was the leg injury prevention training, a short one. Thank you very much, and have a next time.